Hello everyone. Welcome back to the English Academy. I am truly happy that you are here today. Every time you watch one of these stories, you are not only improving your English, you are also learning lessons that can completely change your life. Thank you for choosing to spend your valuable time with me. Before we begin, I have a small request. If you enjoy learning English through simple stories, please like this video, subscribe to the English Academy, and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us create more free English lessons for learners all around the world. Now, close your eyes for just a moment, and imagine this. A young boy sits in the first row of his classroom. His notebooks are always neat. His homework is always complete. Every exam, every test, every competition, he finishes at the top. Teachers admire him. Parents are proud of him. Friends believe he will become one of the most successful people in the future. Everyone says the same thing. Study hard. Get good grades. Find a good job, and your life will be perfect. The boy believes every single word. Because why wouldn't he? The advice comes from teachers, parents, relatives, and almost every successful adult around him. So, he studies harder than ever before. While other children play football after school, he stays inside the library. While his friends watch movies, he solves another page of mathematics. While others sleep peacefully, he keeps reading under a small study lamp. Years pass, and nothing changes. He remains the best student in every class. Certificates fill his bedroom wall. Medals shine inside a glass cabinet. Every achievement brings another round of applause. But there is one thing that nobody notices. Among hundreds of lessons, thousands of homework assignments, and countless exams, not a single person teaches him how money actually works. No one explains why some people earn millions, yet stay broke. No one teaches how to save money, how to invest, how to build wealth, how to escape debt, how to create financial freedom. Those subjects never appear in his textbooks. They are never included in any examination. The boy never questions it. After all, if school teaches everything important, then surely someone must teach those lessons later. His name was Daniel. And this is the story of how Daniel discovered that the biggest lessons in life are sometimes the ones we are never taught. This story is not about becoming rich overnight. It is not about secret tricks. It is not about luck. It is about changing the way you think. Because the day you change your thinking is the day your future begins to change. So, take a deep breath. Relax. Improve your English. And listen carefully. Because somewhere inside Daniel's journey, you may discover your own. Daniel was born into a simple family. His father worked long hours just to make sure there was always food on the table. His mother never complained. She quietly sacrificed her own dreams so her son could build a better future. Every morning, before Daniel left for school, his mother smiled and said, "Study well, my son. Education is something no one can ever take away from you." His father always repeated the same sentence. "I don't want you to work as hard as I do. I want you to have an easy life." Daniel never forgot those words. They became his biggest motivation. He promised himself that one day he would make his parents proud. And he did. Year after year, Daniel became one of the brightest students in school. His report cards were almost perfect. Teachers often used his notebooks as examples for other students. Whenever parents visited the school, they heard the same sentence: "Your son has a bright future." Slowly, Daniel began believing that good grades were the only key to success. No one told him otherwise. After finishing school, he entered one of the best colleges in the city. The competition became harder. Students around him were just as intelligent. But Daniel refused to give up. He studied during lunch breaks. He stayed late in the library. He sacrificed parties, holidays, and weekends. His friends laughed sometimes. "Daniel, life is not only about studying." Daniel simply smiled. "I'll enjoy later. Right now, I have to build my future." 4 years later, graduation day finally arrived. Daniel stood on the stage, holding his degree with both hands. His parents sat in the audience. His mother couldn't stop crying. His father smiled proudly, although his eyes were full of tears. In that moment, they believed every sacrifice had finally paid off. A few weeks later, Daniel received an email. It was from a famous company. He had been selected. His dream job was waiting for him. The salary was much higher than anything his family had ever earned before. The house was filled with happiness. Relatives called to congratulate him. Neighbors praised him. Friends celebrated with him. Everyone repeated the same sentence: "Now your life is set." Daniel believed them. He believed that all his financial problems had ended forever. But life was quietly preparing to teach him the first lesson that no classroom had ever mentioned. The first day at the office felt like a dream. The building was tall. The glass doors shined in the morning sunlight. Everyone walked confidently, holding laptops, wearing formal clothes, and talking about meetings. Daniel looked around with excitement. "I finally made it," he whispered to himself. "This is the life I worked so hard for." The first few weeks were wonderful. He learned quickly. He worked honestly. His manager appreciated him. His teammates trusted him. Everything seemed perfect. Then, the day finally arrived. His first salary was deposited into his bank account. Daniel opened the banking app. He stared at the screen and smiled. It was the largest amount of money he had ever seen, with his own name beside it. Without wasting a second, he called his parents. "Mom, Dad, my first salary has arrived." His mother's voice was full of happiness. "I'm so proud of you." His father laughed. "I told you. Hard work always pays." That evening, Daniel wanted to celebrate. He bought the latest smartphone. He ordered expensive food. He purchased branded shoes. He treated his friends to dinner. Everyone clapped him on the back. "You deserve it. You've worked hard. You should enjoy your life." Daniel agreed. After all, he had earned the money. Why shouldn't he spend it? The days passed quickly. Every morning, coffee before work. Lunch ordered online. A taxi instead of walking. Shopping on weekends. A new watch. Wireless earbuds. A few subscriptions. Nothing looked expensive. Each payment was small. Each purchase felt harmless. Daniel never checked how much he had spent. He only checked how much he had earned. Then, one evening, almost 3 weeks later, he opened his banking app again. His smile disappeared. The balance was almost zero. Daniel blinked. He refreshed the screen. The numbers stayed the same. He couldn't understand. I earn a good salary. I don't gamble. I don't waste money. So, where did it all go? For the next few minutes, he scrolled through his transaction history. Coffee. Food delivery. Online shopping. Taxi rides. Entertainment. Small payments. Again. And again. And again. None of them looked dangerous. But together, they had quietly eaten almost his entire salary. For the first time in his life, Daniel realized something that shocked him. Making money was one skill. Keeping money was another. And growing money was a completely different skill. The strange part was, he had spent almost 20 years inside classrooms. Yet, no one had ever taught him any of those skills. That night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. A question kept repeating inside his mind. If I studied so hard, why does money still feel so difficult? The next morning, Daniel went to work. But something had changed. He was still smiling. He was still doing his job. But deep inside, his mind was full of questions. During lunch, instead of eating with his friends, he sat alone, looking at his bank statement. At that moment, an older employee walked toward him. His name was Mr. Thomas. He had worked in the company for more than 25 years. Everyone respected him. He was not the richest person in the office. He did not wear expensive watches. He did not drive a luxury car. He never tried to impress anyone. Yet, there was something different about him. He always looked calm. He never worried about money. He never complained about bills. He never seemed stressed. Mr. Thomas looked at Daniel and smiled. You look troubled. Daniel forced a small smile. I'm fine. Mr. Thomas laughed softly. No. You're not. I've seen that expression before. It usually appears right after the first salary. Daniel looked surprised. How did you know? Mr. Thomas pulled out a chair and sat beside him. Because many years ago, I was exactly where you are today. Daniel became curious. Mr. Thomas continued. When I received my first salary, I thought I had become rich. I celebrated. I bought things I didn't need. I wanted everyone to see my success. But before the month ended, my bank account was almost empty. Daniel couldn't believe it. My situation is exactly the same. Mr. Thomas nodded. It happens to almost everyone. The problem isn't that you don't earn enough. The problem is that nobody teaches us what to do after we earn. Daniel listened carefully. Every word felt personal. Mr. Thomas picked up Daniel's phone, opened the banking app, and scrolled through the expenses. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then he handed the phone back. "You don't have a money problem. You have a habit problem." Daniel frowned. "A habit problem?" Mr. Thomas smiled. "Yes. You spend first and think later. Successful people think first and spend later." Those words hit Daniel like a lightning bolt. For years, he believed success depended on intelligence. But now, he was beginning to understand that success with money had much more to do with habits than talent. Mr. Thomas stood up, ready to return to work. Before leaving, he said one sentence that Daniel would remember for the rest of his life. "Your salary can change your lifestyle, but only your habits can change your future." Daniel sat there, completely silent. For the first time, he realized that maybe his financial journey was only just beginning. That evening, Daniel reached home earlier than usual. He didn't turn on the television. He didn't open any shopping apps. He didn't scroll through social media. Instead, he sat quietly, with a notebook and a pen. For the first time in his life, he decided to face the truth. At the top of the first page, he wrote, "Where does my money go?" Then, he opened his banking app. One by one, he began writing every expense. Morning coffee, food delivery, movie tickets, taxi rides, online shopping, monthly subscriptions, weekend dinners, impulse purchases. The list kept growing. $10 here, $20 there, $5 somewhere else. Every expense looked small. None of them seemed dangerous. But when he added everything together, he was shocked. Almost 40% of his salary had disappeared on things he could barely remember buying. Daniel stared at the notebook. He whispered. It wasn't one big mistake. It was hundreds of small ones. The next day, he showed the notebook to Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas smiled proudly. Good. You've already taken the first step. Daniel looked confused. I haven't saved any money yet. Mr. Thomas nodded. I know. But before you control your money, you must understand it. He picked up the notebook and drew 3 simple boxes. The first box was called needs. The second, wants. The third, future. Daniel looked carefully. Mr. Thomas explained. Needs are the things you cannot live without. Food, rent, electricity, transportation. They come first. He pointed to the second box. Wants. Make life more enjoyable. Coffee. New clothes. The latest phone. Vacations. There is nothing wrong with them, as long as they don't control your life. Then he pointed to the third box. This one is the most important. Your future. Savings. Investments. Your emergency fund. He looked directly at Daniel. Most people spend money on needs, then spend everything else. On wants. And if anything remains, they save it. Daniel slowly nodded. That's exactly what I do. Mr. Thomas smiled. And that's exactly why most people stay broke. Daniel remained silent. Mr. Thomas took the pen again and changed the order. Future. Needs. Wants. Daniel looked surprised. You mean I should save first? Mr. Thomas smiled. Exactly. The moment your salary arrives, pay your future first. Then pay your bills. Then enjoy what's left. Don't save. What remains after spending? Spend. What remains after saving? Daniel repeated those words again and again, inside his mind. At that moment, he realized one small change could completely change the direction of his financial life. The following month, salary day arrived again. This time, Daniel did something that felt completely different. The money entered his account. He looked at the balance, smiled, and closed the banking app. He didn't open any shopping websites. He didn't think about buying a new phone. He didn't plan a celebration. Instead, he opened another account and transferred 10% of his salary into it. The amount wasn't huge, but to Daniel, it felt like a victory. For the first time, he wasn't paying a company. He wasn't paying a shopping app. He wasn't paying a restaurant. He was paying his future. Later that afternoon, Mr. Thomas asked, "So, did you save first?" Daniel smiled proudly. "Yes. It wasn't easy. But I did it." Mr. Thomas nodded. "Good. Now let me teach you the second lesson." He picked up a small seed that had fallen from a tree outside the office. Holding it in his hand, he asked, "What do you see?" Daniel answered, "A seed." Mr. Thomas smiled. "I see a tree." Daniel looked confused. Mr. Thomas continued, "This tiny seed will never become a tree in one day. It needs time. It needs patience. It needs care. But if someone keeps digging it up every few days to check whether it has grown, it will never become a tree." Daniel listened carefully. Mr. Thomas placed the seed back on the ground. Money works the same way. People invest today and expect to become rich next month. When that doesn't happen, they quit. They think investing doesn't work. But the truth is, they never gave it enough time. Daniel suddenly remembered his school days. A teacher once told him, "A tree gives shade only to those who have the patience to let it grow." He smiled. Now, that sentence made much more sense. Mr. Thomas looked at him and said quietly, "We live in a world where everyone wants instant success, instant food, instant delivery, instant fame. But wealth doesn't grow instantly. It grows slowly, silently, and consistently." Daniel took out his notebook and wrote, "Wealth is not built in exciting moments. It is built through boring, repeated habits." As he closed the notebook, he realized something. He was no longer chasing quick money. He was learning How to build lasting wealth. And that would make all the difference. A few days later, Daniel met Mr. Thomas again. During their lunch break. This time, Daniel looked more confident. I've started saving. I've stopped wasting money. But I still have one question. Mr. Thomas smiled. Go ahead. Daniel leaned forward. How do some people become rich? Even when they earn less than others? Mr. Thomas looked around. Picked up 2 office chairs. And placed them side by side. Imagine these chairs. Represent 2 people. The first person earns $100,000 every year. But every year, he spends $105,000. He buys a bigger car. A bigger house. A more expensive lifestyle. He looks successful. But every year, he goes deeper into debt. Mr. Thomas pointed to the second chair. The second person earns only $60,000. He lives below his means. He saves consistently. He invests patiently. He avoids unnecessary debt. 10 years later, who do you think is actually wealthier? Daniel smiled. The second person. Exactly. Mr. Thomas replied. Because wealth is not measured by what people see. It is measured by what people cannot see. Daniel looked confused. What do you mean? Mr. Thomas explained. When someone buys an expensive watch, everyone notices. When someone quietly invests every month, almost nobody notices. When someone drives a luxury car, people admire them. When someone builds a strong investment portfolio, very few people clap. The world celebrates visible success. But real wealth is often invisible. Daniel remembered how badly he once wanted to impress others. A better phone, branded clothes, expensive restaurants. He suddenly realized he wasn't buying those things because he truly needed them. He was buying them because he wanted other people to think he was successful. Mr. Thomas smiled gently. The moment you stop trying to look rich, you finally begin to become rich. Those words went straight into Daniel's heart. That evening, he returned home, opened his wardrobe, and looked at all the things he had purchased just to impress others. Some still had price tags. Some had been used only once. He laughed softly. I worked so hard to buy things that never made me happier. He closed the wardrobe, looked out of the window, and quietly made another promise. From today, I will stop buying things I don't need to impress people who don't pay my bills. It was a simple promise. But Daniel knew simple promises, repeated every day, had the power to completely change a person's life. The next week, Daniel noticed something strange. Nothing in his life had changed dramatically. He still woke up at the same time. He still worked in the same office. He still received the same salary. But somehow, he felt less stressed. For the first time, he knew exactly where his money was going. That simple awareness gave him peace. One afternoon, Mr. Thomas invited Daniel For a walk. During their lunch break. As they walked through a nearby park. They saw two men. The first man was driving a beautiful luxury car. People stopped to admire it. The second man arrived on an old bicycle. Nobody looked at him. Daniel smiled. I think I know. Who is richer? Mr. Thomas laughed. Do you? Daniel looked confused. The man with the car is probably wealthy. Mr. Thomas shook his head. Never judge a person's wealth by what they drive. You know the price of the car, but you don't know the price he is paying. He may still owe the bank for the next 7 years. He may be worried every single month about the next payment. Daniel remained silent. Mr. Thomas pointed toward the man on the bicycle. And that man might have no loans, no credit card debt, a healthy investment account, an emergency fund, and complete peace of mind. Daniel smiled. So, real wealth is invisible. Mr. Thomas nodded. Exactly. Many people buy expensive things to look successful. But truly successful people buy freedom. They buy time. They buy peace. They buy choices. Those words made Daniel think deeply. He suddenly understood that money was never really about cars, phones, or luxury watches. Money was about having the freedom to make decisions without fear. The freedom to help your family when they needed you. The freedom to leave a job that made you unhappy. The freedom to sleep peacefully without worrying about tomorrow's bills. As they walked back toward the office, Daniel looked at the busy road. Hundreds of people were rushing to earn more money. But very few were learning how to keep it. And at that moment, Daniel realized the greatest investment he had ever made was not into stocks or savings. It was into his own financial education. Because once your mind changes, your future can never remain the same. Months passed. The changes in Daniel's life were small, almost invisible. But they were happening every single day. He no longer bought things without thinking. He no longer felt excited every time a new phone was launched. He no longer believed that expensive things would make him successful. One afternoon, Daniel received a message from one of his college friends. Hey, it's been a long time. Let's meet this Saturday. Daniel happily agreed. Saturday arrived. And they met at a beautiful cafe. His friend, Ryan, arrived wearing an expensive suit. A luxury watch shined on his wrist. He parked a brand new sports car right in front of the cafe. Daniel smiled. Wow. You've done really well. Ryan laughed proudly. I know. I upgraded everything. The car. The apartment. The phone. Even my wardrobe. For a few minutes, Daniel felt impressed. Maybe he was doing something wrong. Maybe he was saving too much. Maybe He should also enjoy life. Then, something unexpected happened. Ryan's phone rang. His smile disappeared. Daniel couldn't hear the entire conversation. But he heard a few words. Please. Give me 1 more month. I'll make the payment. I promise. Ryan ended the call and remained silent. Daniel asked gently, Is everything okay? Ryan forced a smile. Yeah. Just a small problem. After a few moments, he finally told the truth. The car is on loan. The apartment is on loan. The furniture is on loan. Even this watch is on monthly installments. I earn a good salary. But almost all of it is already promised. Before I even receive it. Daniel didn't know what to say. The man, who looked richer than everyone, was secretly carrying the heaviest financial burden. As they left the cafe, Ryan looked at Daniel and quietly said, You know, I wish I had learned how to manage money before I started earning it. Daniel smiled softly. I used to think being rich meant buying expensive things. Now I think being rich means sleeping peacefully without worrying about tomorrow. Ryan looked at him. And for the first time, he didn't laugh. He simply nodded. Because deep inside, he knew Daniel was absolutely right. That conversation stayed in Daniel's mind for many days. He realized something important. Money problems don't always begin because people earn too little. Sometimes they begin because people try to look richer than they really are. The following Monday, Daniel met Mr. Thomas again. This time, he shared everything about Ryan. Mr. Thomas listened carefully. Then he smiled. I've met hundreds of people, just like your friend. They don't buy things because they need them. They buy things because they want approval. Daniel looked confused. Approval? Mr. Thomas nodded. Yes. Many people don't actually want the expensive car. They want the respect they think the car will bring. They don't really want the luxury watch. They want people to admire them. Daniel remained silent. Mr. Thomas continued. Never let other people's opinions become more expensive than your own future. Those words hit Daniel deeply. He remembered how many times he had purchased something just because everyone else had it. A new phone, branded shoes, designer clothes. Not because he truly needed them, but because he didn't want to feel left behind. Mr. Thomas picked up a small stone from the ground. He placed it in Daniel's hand. What is this? A stone. Daniel replied. Mr. Thomas smiled. It doesn't care whether people praise it or ignore it. It simply remains what it is. He looked directly into Daniel's eyes. You should become like this stone. Know your value and stop depending on other people's applause. Daniel smiled. For the first time, he understood that financial freedom wasn't only about bank accounts. It was also about Mental freedom. The freedom to say no when everyone else was saying yes. The freedom to live below your means, even when others laughed at your choices. The freedom to think about your future instead of today's applause. As they walked back toward the office, Daniel felt lighter. He no longer wanted to impress the world. He wanted to impress the person he would become 10 years from now. And without realizing it, that decision alone had already made him far wealthier than he had been just a few months earlier. One evening, as Daniel was about to leave the office, Mr. Thomas called his name. "Daniel, I have one last lesson for you today." Daniel smiled. "I am listening." Mr. Thomas picked up a blank sheet of paper. Then he drew two simple columns. At the top of the first column, he wrote, "Assets." At the top of the second, "Liabilities." Daniel looked carefully. "I've heard these words before, but I've never really understood them." Mr. Thomas nodded. "Most people haven't. They hear these words, but nobody explains them in simple language." He pointed to the first column. "An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It works for you, even when you're sleeping." Then he pointed to the second column. "A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. It demands your time, your energy, and your income." Daniel thought for a moment. "So, a house is always an asset?" Mr. Thomas smiled. "Not always. If your house only creates expenses, it behaves like a liability. But if it earns money through rent, or increases your income, then it can become an asset." Daniel looked surprised. No teacher has ever explained it like this. Mr. Thomas continued. "Your phone is useful, but it doesn't earn money. Your expensive watch looks beautiful, but it doesn't pay your bills. Now imagine you own a small investment that sends you money every month. Which one makes your future stronger?" Daniel answered immediately. "The investment." "Exactly." Mr. Thomas smiled. "The wealthy don't spend their entire lives buying more liabilities. They quietly build more assets. They understand that every asset is like another employee working for them 24 hours a day." Daniel's eyes lit up. For years, he had worked for money. Now, he understood that one day, money could also work for him. That single idea changed everything. As Daniel walked home, he didn't dream about owning more expensive things. He dreamed about owning more valuable assets. Because for the first time, he understood the true goal was never to look wealthy. The true goal was to build a life where his money would continue growing, even on the days he wasn't working. And from that day onward, every financial decision became much easier. Whenever he wanted to buy something, he asked himself, "Will this become an asset Or just another liability? That one simple question saved him from hundreds of bad decisions. Over the years, time continued to move forward. Weeks became months. Months slowly became a year. The changes in Daniel's life were no longer invisible. His savings had grown. His emergency fund was almost complete. He had started investing a small amount every single month. It wasn't a fortune, but it was consistent. And consistency was becoming his greatest strength. One afternoon, a shocking announcement was made at the office. The company was going through financial difficulties. Several departments would be reduced. Many employees would lose their jobs. Within seconds, the entire office became silent. People looked worried. Some immediately called their families. Others opened their banking apps. Many whispered, "What will happen now?" Daniel felt nervous too. But unlike a year ago, he didn't panic. He took a deep breath. Because he knew, even if the worst happened, he had prepared for it. A few hours later, the list was announced. Several of Daniel's friends lost their jobs. Some had home loans. Some had car loans. Some had credit card debt. Many of them admitted they didn't even have enough savings to cover 1 month of expenses. Daniel felt heartbroken. He wanted to help. But he also learned a painful truth. Financial problems rarely begin during difficult times. They begin years earlier, when people ignore the importance of preparation. That evening, Mr. Thomas found Daniel standing quietly near the office window. "You look sad." Daniel nodded. "I feel bad for everyone." Mr. Thomas placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is exactly why I kept telling you to build an emergency fund. You don't build it because you expect disaster. You build it because life is unpredictable." Daniel looked outside. Rain had started falling. Mr. Thomas smiled. "You don't buy an umbrella after the rain begins. You buy it before you need it." The same is true for savings. The same is true for investments. The same is true for financial discipline. Daniel smiled. That simple example made perfect sense. At that moment, he realized money was never really about buying more things. Money was about creating security. It was about protecting the people you love. It was about having choices when life became difficult. And for the first time, Daniel felt something he had never felt. When he bought expensive phones or branded clothes, he felt peace. Real peace. The kind of peace that comes not from how much you spend, but from how well you prepare for tomorrow. 5 years passed. Daniel's life looked completely different. Not because he had won the lottery. Not because he had inherited millions. And not because he had found some secret shortcut. His life changed because of thousands of small decisions made consistently over many years. His investments had quietly grown. His emergency fund was fully built. He no longer worried about every unexpected expense. More importantly, he no longer worked because he was afraid. He worked because he enjoyed creating value. One morning, as Daniel walked into the office, he noticed a familiar face. It was Ryan, the same friend who once drove the expensive sports car. But today, everything was different. The luxury car was gone. The expensive watch was gone. Even his confidence seemed to have disappeared. Ryan smiled weakly. "Can we talk?" Daniel nodded. They sat together at a nearby coffee shop. Ryan looked down at his empty coffee cup. "I wish I had listened earlier." Daniel remained silent. Ryan continued. "I spent years trying to look successful. I upgraded my lifestyle every time my salary increased. But I never upgraded my financial knowledge. When I lost my job, everything collapsed. I had no savings, no investments, no emergency fund. The bank took my car. I had to sell my apartment. For the first time, I realized I didn't own those things. They owned me." Daniel quietly listened. He didn't judge, because he remembered. He had once thought the same way. Ryan looked at him and asked softly, "Tell me honestly, what made you different?" Daniel smiled. "It wasn't my salary. It wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It was one decision." Ryan looked confused. "What decision?" Daniel answered slowly. "The day I stopped asking, 'How can I earn more?' and started asking, 'How can I become wiser with the money I already have?'" Ryan remained silent. Daniel continued. "I learned that money is like water. If the bucket has holes, pouring in more water will never solve the problem. You must first repair the bucket. Only then can it become full." Ryan smiled. For the first time in many years, he felt hopeful. Because he finally understood that it wasn't too late. As long as a person is willing to learn, their financial future can still change. And Daniel realized that the greatest gift Mr. Thomas had ever given him wasn't money. It was knowledge. Because money can disappear, but knowledge stays with you for the rest of your life. Years later, Daniel stood in front of a classroom. But this time, he wasn't a student. He was the speaker. A local college had invited him to share his journey with hundreds of young students who were about to begin their careers. As Daniel walked onto the stage, he smiled. Looking at those young faces felt like looking into his own past. He could see excitement, dreams, confidence, and the same belief he once had, that good grades alone would guarantee a successful life. Daniel looked around and asked a simple question. "How many of you want to become successful?" Every hand went up. He smiled. Then he asked another question. "How many of you have attended a class that taught you how to make a monthly budget?" The room became silent. No hands. "How many of you have learned how to build an emergency fund?" Again, Silence. What about investing? Compound interest? Assets and liabilities? Still. Not a single hand. Daniel nodded gently. I wasn't taught those lessons either. I believed that a degree was enough. And I was wrong. The students listened. Without moving, Daniel continued. School gave me knowledge. It taught me how to read, how to write, how to solve problems. And I will always be grateful for that. But after graduation, life gave me a different examination. There were no teachers. There were no report cards. There were no second chances. Only decisions. And every financial decision created my future. He paused and looked around the room. So don't stop learning. The day you leave school, read books. Learn new skills. Understand money. Invest in yourself. Because your greatest asset is not your salary. It is your knowledge. The room filled with applause. Daniel smiled. Not because people were clapping, but because he knew that maybe just one student would leave that room thinking differently. And sometimes one changed mind can change an entire life. As Daniel stepped off the stage, he remembered the quiet old man who had once shared his lunch break and changed his future. Mr. Thomas was now retired, but his lessons continued to live through every person Daniel inspired. That is how true wealth grows. Not only through money, but through wisdom shared with others. Daniel's story was never really about money. It was about choices. Every single day, life gives us small decisions. Spend or save. Complain or learn. Follow the crowd or think for yourself. At first, those decisions seem very small, almost meaningless. But years later, they become the life we are living. As Daniel walked home, after speaking at the college, his phone rang. It was Mr. Thomas. Daniel smiled immediately. Hello, sir. A warm voice replied. I heard your speech. One of the professors recorded it for me. Daniel laughed. I hope I didn't disappoint you. Mr. Thomas chuckled softly. My boy. You no longer need me. You have become the teacher. Daniel became emotional. No. I simply repeated what you once taught me. Mr. Thomas remained silent for a few seconds. Then he said, remember this. Money comes and money goes. But character, discipline, and knowledge stay with you forever. If you lose money, you can earn it again. If you lose a job, you can find another. But if you stop learning, you stop growing. Daniel looked up at the evening sky. Those words felt even more powerful than the first day they had met. A few months later, Mr. Thomas retired. On his last day, the entire office gathered to thank him. Many people spoke about his honesty, his kindness, his experience. When it was Daniel's turn, he walked to the stage. holding a small gift. He smiled, looked at Mr. Thomas, and said, "You taught me how to earn respect. But more importantly, you taught me how to earn freedom. The greatest investment I ever made wasn't in stocks or savings. It was listening to your advice." The room became silent. Many people had tears in their eyes. Mr. Thomas smiled and replied, "I didn't change your life. You changed it. The day you decided to change your habits. Because information changes nothing. Action changes everything." That simple sentence became Daniel's favorite quote. And from that day onward, whenever someone asked him the secret to success, he always gave the same answer. Learn continuously. Live below your means. Invest patiently. And never stop improving yourself. Because true wealth is not measured by the money inside your wallet. True wealth is waking up every morning without fear, without debt controlling your life, and with the freedom to choose how you want to live. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story helped you improve your English and also taught you something valuable about life, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the English Academy for more simple English stories with powerful life lessons. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, the best investment you will ever make is always an investment in yourself. The end.